Warning: the following video contains high levels of pedantry. Viewer discretion is advised. So I very frequently see people get a lot of things wrong about tanks, but some of these mistakes are a little bit more elementary than others. For example, what would you say is the name of this tank? Now, if you said Matilda, you'd be absolutely right. This is, in fact, the Matilda tank, and it was called Matilda in official British documents after 1941, without any kind of suffix or addendum to that, and that's a perfectly fine way to refer to this tank. However, I do see people call it strange things like A12 Matilda or Matilda 2 Mark IV or any combination, various letters and numbers. And I just wanted to make a short video to talk about why that's wrong and how the tank should be named and why it was named what it was named. So let's start with the index A12. In this case, A12 doesn't refer to a tank specifically. It refers to a set of requirements from the General Staff. So the General Staff, they wanted a new tank, and so they put together some requirements under the index A12. Now, specific vehicles developed to satisfy these requirements had the index A12 followed by the letter E and a number. So the first prototype of what eventually became the Matilda was called A12E1, and then a second prototype was called A12E2, and so on and so forth. Now, when this tank was actually accepted into service as the Infantry Tank Mk.II, the general staff requirement doesn't really make sense to apply anymore, and so it wasn't ever called A12 Infantry Tank Mk.II in official documents. It was just the Infantry Tank Mk.II. So the tank was called Infantry Tank Mk.II, but the British, they had an interesting naming scheme at the beginning of World War II. So the Infantry Tank Mk.II described the original Matilda with a Vickers coaxial machine gun and a pair of AEC engines. But when the Vickers coaxial gun was replaced with a Bessa gun, the tank got a new name. It was called Infantry Tank Mk.II-A. And then the next big change to be introduced into the design was to replace the AAC engines with Leyland engines. So this tank was called Infantry Tank Mk.II-A Star. And when those engines in turn were replaced with improved Leyland engines, the tank was called Infantry Tank Mk.II-A Double Star. Now, as no doubt you're aware, you can take a regular British tank and make it into a close support tank by replacing the 2-pounder with a 3-inch howitzer. And so, if you take a Matilda with improved Leyland engines, a basic coaxial machine gun, and a howitzer instead of a 2-pounder gun, the resulting tank is called Infantry Tank Mk.II-A Double Star CS. Just rolls off the tongue, right? Legend has it, I'm not sure if that's true, that Winston Churchill personally found this very difficult to remember, and I can understand why. And so, under his personal orders, names for these tanks were developed rather than these tongue twisters of code names. So in the summer of 1941, the Infantry Tank Mk.II became the Matilda 1. Now I often see the name Matilda 1 applied to the Infantry Tank Mark I. I have never seen this designation used in official documents. Officially, the Matilda 1 was the Infantry Tank Mk.II. In turn, the Infantry Tank Mk.II-A, that's the one with the coaxial Bessa, that one became the Matilda 2. The tank with Leyland engines became the Matilda 3, and then the tank with improved Leyland engines became the Matilda 4. The tank with the tanks with the 3-inch howitzers, they kept that designation. So a tank with the improved Leyland engines, basic coaxial machine gun, and a 3-inch howitzer would be called Matilda 4 CS, which is a little bit more memorable than an Infantry Tank Mk.II-A Double Star CS. A little bit easier to say, but for some reason, people like to combine the names. Like you'll see Matilda 2 Mark IV or Infantry Tank 2 Mark IV. Those I've never seen those in official documents, and that was not the official name of the tank. Those were two, an Infantry Tank Mark II and a Matilda there's two different names for the same tank. You don't combine them together. It would be as silly as saying something like Medium Tank General Sherman or Object 240 IS-2. It was just not done. They're two different names used in different eras for the same tank. So, to summarize, it's either an Infantry Tank Mark II or the Matilda. It's not both.